a silence into which the world cannot intrude. There is an ancient peace you carry in your heart and have not lost. In you is a holiness the thought of sin has never touched. All this today you will remember. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one. There is a silence into which the world cannot intrude. Herein your treasure lies, and here your rest. What sacred vision shows becomes the healing and salvation of the world. All this today you will remember. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one with God who is our source. Now we are one. Now we are one. Now we are one.
And good morning. Is mic on? It sounds like it. Okay, there we go. Just wanted to make sure. Good morning. It's 10 a.m. Central European summertime, and I want to welcome you to Unity Serving Military Overseas, where through understanding and demonstration of truth principles, we can be the catalyst along the positive path for spiritual living. Good morning again. I'm Randy Fillmore, and I am honored to serve as your host and platform assistant for today's worship service. Keith is at our video controls just over that way. And as we broadcast and stream from the Unity Serving Military Overseas Studios in historic downtown Melbourne, Florida, about 7 miles south of Patrick Air Force Base. And know that it is a blessing, an absolute blessing to have you join us for today's broadcast, whether it's live or whether you are watching it at a time convenient to you. We're going to invite you to check in via Facebook. And, there we go. In between some of the segments, I'll acknowledge your presence during the worship service if you're watching us live. And if you're watching us at a time that it's convenient to you, then know that we do go back and check the Facebook posts, and we'll certainly acknowledge you at that point in time with a thumbs up or whatever, and certainly we invite you to do that. But the only way that we can acknowledge you is if you check in. Now, this is, if you've been a viewer of Unity SMO services, you notice that lately we have changed the service a little bit, focusing specifically on music, meditation, and message, and stripping away all the other things. So I'm going to shut up right now. And we've already heard from Deborah Thornton in a cappella and One with the Source during our pre-service countdown. And right now it's J.D. Martin and Jan Garrett with One Heart.
There's a new church on the horizon, made of light, not of stone, calling out to all creation, you are not alone. Lions and lambs, saints and sinners, best of friends, enemies, woman and man, losers and winners, they are all in you and me. We are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Oh, out in the cold, there are faces hidden by the wind and rain. Hold out your hand, someone will take it and bring you home again. Yes, we are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Around the world tonight, all the fires are burning, tears are falling from the sky, still the world keeps turning. We are one heart, one soul, one dream we share together. We are all apart. Yes, we are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Oh, we are one. Yes, we are all a part of one heart.
J.D. Martin and Jan Garrett, One Heart. Our daily word for today, Sunday, July the 19th, is togetherness. The affirmation for today is, I share God's love, peace, and joy. While I treasure my times of quiet and solitude, I also look forward to enjoying the company of family, friends, and members of my faith community. Whether we're working, volunteering, praying, or simply enjoying one another's company, our shared experiences allow me to support people I care about and feel supported in return. That's kind of difficult during this time of COVID-19. I know many of the bases throughout, whether it be the Indo-Pacific Theater or the European Theater, are starting to open up right now, and some of the host nation activities are not being open to Americans. So we're still kind of feeling isolated. I know we are feeling extremely isolated here in Central Florida. It seems that Florida now has as many active COVID-19 cases as the fourth largest in the world, just for our state. But we're missing the opportunity, seemingly missing the opportunity to work and play and engage with those in our spiritual community. And the only way that we're able to do that, and family as well, is through video conferencing, things like this medium. And it's not the same. Unity people are huggers. We enjoy that physical contact. We enjoy those hugs. And while we're not physically able to do this, we can still be together. Just as we heard with Deborah Thornton, one with our source, and J.D. Martin, one heart. We are all connected. It doesn't satisfy the actual need for physical touch, but we are one. We are able to be together and share in God's love, peace, and joy. So when you're feeling put upon, whether you're feeling down, whether you're feeling that you're not together, please take an opportunity to remember this affirmation. I share God's love, peace, and joy. And feel that, use that as a mantra. Use it as a mantra. Feel it deep inside. Continue to repeat that. I share God's love, peace, and joy. I share God's love, peace, and joy. And it flows through my body here and now. So I invite you to take that. I invite you to use that whenever you're feeling the need. And don't forget, Silent Unity is also available if you're feeling that as well. And I'll talk about Silent Unity a little bit later. I'm going to change things up just briefly before we get into meditation. I just, probably 20 minutes ago, heard of a new Nemo Patel, Daniel Namad song. Thank you, Reverend Kelly Isola, for letting me know this. It's called Superhero. And again, it is Nemo Patel and Daniel Namad, and we're going to cut to that right now.
I always wanted a red cape on my back. I always wanted to be the best in my pack. I always wanted to be known to be good, to be the hero of my own hood. If I could just fly, I could save everyone. Stop all the wars so nobody's gotta run. All the killing, all the crimes, pain and suffering. It's getting tougher to be buffered from it all. Are we gonna make it through? Is he gonna fly back in? Cause if he don't come right now, I don't think good will win. Time is running out. Do we wanna wait for him? Or is it our time now to bring the good back in? We don't have to leap tall buildings. In a single bound. There's a lot of good that we can do. Standing on the ground. We don't need a jetpack suit to take us to the clouds. It's up to me and you, right here, right now. Superhero, na 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 na. Superhero, whoa 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 whoa. Superhero, na 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 na. Superhero, whoa 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 whoa. The world is full of so much pain, and though I can't fly, I can do mind, spend a little more time in my changing life, yeah. Like giving a hug when somebody is down, feeding a soul when there's nobody around. Small things that can change the sound and the vibe of the spirit that can change a town. Started small, now it's touched the crowd. The crowd is growing, now the word is out that if we all do our parts, we can touch the clouds. Without a cape and a mask, we can touch the clouds. Yep. We don't have to leap tall buildings. There's a lot of good that we can do. We don't need a jetpack suit. It's up to me and you. Right here, right now. Superhero. Na 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 na. The superhero. Oh, 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 oh. Superhero. Na 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 na. The superhero. Oh, 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 oh. It's the smallest things that make a difference. And all the power's locked within us. All we gotta do is find the key and turn the latch and set it free, yeah. We don't need to be fast and strong, cause a kind word can go a long way. Help someone whose faith is gone to get back up and carry on. Maybe it's too hard to understand, think it's too much for us to handle, but I promise you that you can, cause you don't need to be a Superman. We don't have to leap tall buildings in a single bound. There's a lot of good that we can do. Standing on the ground. We don't need a jetpack suit to take us to the clouds. It's up to me and you. Right here, right now. Superhero. Feeding the soul when there's nobody around. The superhero. And the vibe of the spirit that can change a town. Superhero. The crowd is growing, now the word is out that if we all do our parts, we can touch the clouds. Without a cape and a mask, we can touch the clouds. Yep.
I'm sorry about that. Daniel Nemo Patel and Superhero. Great song. I just heard about that video earlier, like I say, about 20 minutes ago. And anything coming out of Daniel Nemo, who's a friend of Unity SMO, I definitely wanted to share it with you. So that was a premiere here, at least for Unity SMO. And all of you who are watching, again, either live or at a time convenient to you, are superheroes. And I would invite you to go ahead and take a picture of yourself in your mask, if you're still wearing them, and please send them to us on Facebook, and we'll certainly post those. It's a great, you are superheroes, and we want to acknowledge that. We want to go ahead and prepare ourselves now for meditation. We're joining a meditation offered by Silent Unity, and it is expressing gratitude.
As you take time out of your busy day to meditate, you begin by taking a deep and cleansing breath in, then releasing any tension, stress, or worry as you exhale. Take this time to reflect on the gifts of your life, all the blessings you have received. As you focus on your heart, you feel an overwhelming appreciation for all the love in your life. Gratitude wells up within you. Gratitude for your body and how it serves you. Gratitude for your family and friends and the joy they bring into your life. You remember the beauty of nature all around you and express gratitude for the beautiful blue sky, the soft billowing white clouds, the rain that helps vegetation grow, and the sun that warms our planet. You are grateful for life itself. What a gift you have been given. As you allow your heart to fill with gratitude and appreciation, you radiate loving and appreciative energy out into the world. See your love circling around the globe, enfolding the world in gratitude. As this meditation comes to a close, you begin to return to the world around you with a fresh appreciation for everyone and everything in your life. You go about the rest of your day expressing gratitude, and you remember that silent unity is always here for you.
Over. Today's lesson is being offered today by Rev Bob Uhlar, Senior Minister at Unity of Tampa, and Loose Lips Sink Ships, originally broadcast and originally streamed on April 26th of 2020. Reverend Bob.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's have a virtual hug. Good morning. The title of this morning's lesson is Loose Lips Sink Ships. It was a phrase that was born in the World War II era. What they discovered was that, there were spies all over the place. So if you started to talk about how one of your loved ones was shipping out to the Second World War, spies could figure out when ships were leaving. And there were convoys of ships that would take soldiers or supplies, across the Atlantic to Europe for this World War II. And of course, in the Pacific arena, you had the same thing happening. And I know there's a movie that stars Tom Hanks that's going to be coming out soon. Like so many movies, I think the release was delayed, but the name of it is Greyhound. And he's a captain of one of these ships, and he's taking his first voyage across the Atlantic dealing with German submarines, trying to sink them and the like. So there are several variations on loose lips sink ships, but it's just that matter of sometimes your idle talk can have just incredible consequences. And now here we are dealing with this pandemic, the COVID-19 virus, And it's leading to things like unemployment and people concerned about a recession. So today we're going to be focused on the power of the spoken word, what it can do for us and what it can do against us. Never underestimate the power of your spoken declarations. In Unity, we have a concept called denials and affirmations, and they are basically our ability to speak forth a denial, which would be, okay, I don't want this in my life anymore, I release it. And then you have an affirmation where you are trying to attract something to you. So you use in our 12 powers, we have the power of elimination or renunciation, some people call it. And then we all have that power of faith, which we talked about, of course, last week. And faith is our ability to say yes to God and yes to whatever it is we want. So this is the fourth of 4 lessons on how to live a recession-proof life. If you missed the previous 3, they're available right there on the Facebook page where you're watching. They're also available on our new and improved website, unitytampa.org. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll find the links to those lessons. But it's based on Eric Butterworth's book, Spiritual Economics. In the previous weeks, like I said, we explored faith. We also explored divine substance, this invisible energy that forms all things, forms all molecules, atoms, and all matter. Security, what is our true security? So let's start by defining what a recession is. Yeah, and it's funny because it can be kind of vague depending upon which source you look at, but it says a recession is when you have 6 consecutive months of the gross domestic product numbers falling here in the United States. And if you go more than 18 months, then you can start calling it a depression. And of course, many of us are familiar from history of the Great Depression that started, in 1929 and really lasted through the 1930s, even though there were some surges of good economy during that period. So we have this collective consciousness where we all put our thoughts and our words out there into the universe, and we create these things. And we can create a recession. If we're all scared and we're all hoarding our money or hoarding toilet paper, we end up choking off, the circulation of the universe. So, if we are spiritual beings having a human experience, then can we recognize that it may sound outrageous, but we can have a recession-proof life. We can choose not to participate in the recession thinking and thoughts, and feelings, rather. Each day, when we get up, we've got some decisions to make. Okay, what are we going to wear? What are we going to eat? But the other question is, what's my attitude going to be today? We can walk out with a lousy attitude, or we can walk out with a good attitude, or anywhere in between on the spectrum. And then the barrage begins. We start to take in what we're seeing in the physical world, the news, or just observing other people's behavior, and we start to cast judgment on them, rather than looking for the good in all of these situations. You can change your thought patterns. Now, you may not be able to change your train of thought patterns overnight, but when you are aware, if you have a thought of negativity come to you, you can say, oh, wait a minute, cancel that. I'm going to let go of that and come up with a new approach. We set up this observer self of ours. This observer self that can kind of tap us on the shoulder metaphorically and say, oh, did you realize what you just said? Carla and I are very good in having, we've got this ongoing thing where one of us will say, something negative like that, and the other one will turn to and say, well, that's a great affirmation. Let's affirm that. let's create, and it's like, I don't want to create that. I want to let it go. So there's this realization that when these negative words are heard, when people talk about jobs, unemployment, or money supply, or bleak forecasts, it's not what happens to us, it's what's happening in us and through us. So that's why we need to be careful to have the courage to examine what's going on inside of us. What are the thoughts? What are the feelings? Why? And so often it comes to, are we coming from love or are we coming from fear? Those two polar opposites. There's an old saying that talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Realize that there's nothing that could be further from the truth. If our spoken words can create our experience, they are valuable beyond measure. In the Bible book of Isaiah, in the 10th chapter, the prophet Isaiah says, "Woe to those who decree unrighteous decrees, and the writers who keep writing oppression, to turn aside the needy from justice and to rob the poor of their rights." Woe to those who decree unrighteous decrees. First time Carla and I discovered Unity, we went to Unity in Chicago. It was around January of 1987. And this Unity minister, Mike Matoyne, who's passed away now, a good 25 years ago, was talking about this concept that we create our lives. And he says, "Are you ready to take responsibility for everything that's happened to you?" And boy, that hit me. It's like, wow. But then I started thinking back. Perhaps I had spoke an unrighteous decree. And sure enough, my thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs, my assumptions, my worldview created what I had been experiencing. A Unity minister was telling me about a woman in his congregation, and you know how we all like to come up with these clever little sayings. I know Tom Hartman, the radio host, when people ask him, "So how are you?" And he says, "I'm great, but I'll get better." It's a great affirmation. Well, this woman in his congregation had this saying, "I'm so healthy it would take a truck to knock me off my feet." Well, you can kind of guess what happened. Obviously, I'm so healthy, that's a good approach. But what happened was, she was driving along in her car and she got broadsided by a truck. She was knocked off her feet for a couple of months as she was rehabilitating. So yeah, you might think, well, this is just idle talk. It's not idle talk. It can create. So what do you declare about your health, about your occupation, about your relationships, about your money supply, about your spiritual growth or your connection with what we know as God? Do you say things like, "I'm sick and tired of," well, "I can't win for losing"? "Isn't this always the way it goes?" Well, first of all, I cancel all of those declarations that I just sent out. But what happens is this enters our subconscious mind and it starts to build what it is we've declared. See, the problem is that the subconscious mind can't take a joke. If you declare a thing, it will be so. So we join in this chorus of people complaining. And remember what Isaiah said, "Woe to those who decree unrighteous decrees." Now, I'm not saying, as I said last week, I'm not saying you need to set them right. It's a matter of seeing them rightly. So when we have a situation like that surface, it's not a matter of correcting the person, but it's a matter of, am I going to join in? Am I going to take part in this parade? Or am I going to sit this one out? In the book of Joel, 3rd chapter, 10th verse, he says, "Let the weak declare, I am strong." Now you might find yourself thinking, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of BS." But if we can catch this vision of our potential, if this person who is weak can see himself strong, or if this woman who is feeling ill can see herself expressing perfect health and affirm that, we can create it. Never underestimate the power of your spoken declarations. Now, earlier I mentioned the Unity concept of denials and affirmations. So we tap into this field of possibility, this spiritual substance that we have. And using our imagination and our words, we start to create a set of circumstances, or some people call them coincidences, that sure enough, what's manifested is what we've been declaring, what we've been assuming is going to come to us. As I said on April 5th, the substance of God is everywhere. It's in every cell of your body. It's everywhere around you, everywhere inside of you. Within each part, think about gardening. and that's a good metaphor for the subconscious mind. But, let's say you're planting some vegetables, some tomatoes. Okay, so you plant seeds, you don't see anything. But in your mind, you can see what's going to be happening. Just, some good water, good tending, making sure no weeds are growing. You'll have in a few months tomatoes or whatever it is that you plant. I remember seeing a greeting card of a cowboy walking in a field of wheat, and he says, "Well, the crop looks good, but I could have sworn I planted corn." So yeah, what did you plant, wheat or corn? So each one of us, plants a seed, and then we can expect that the seed will grow. Within each of us, there is this part that's divine, that always knows that we're connected with God. We may fall asleep with it, or we may ignore it, but we always have that connection. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. In unity, we call it the I am. You remember in the third chapter of Exodus, Moses sees this burning bush, and the bush calls to him, and he goes over, takes his shoes off, not because he doesn't want to get the ground dirty. He takes his shoe off because feet represent understanding. And Moses, in talking with this God that's speaking through the bush, at one point Moses says, "What is your name?" And the bush says, I am. Now, it's interesting because later editors, and if you check the italics and stuff like that, slipped in the word that. I am that I am. But the word that wasn't there in the original script. So God's name is I am. And there is no more powerful declaration that we can make than to say I am and then fill in the blank afterwards. That's a powerful affirmation. But what's happening inside of us is we figure out, what are we going to connect our very essence with? What are we going to use to manifest in the world? What are the words that are going to follow the words I am? In the book of Job, we may have heard, that Job is a good and righteous man, but then all of a sudden all of these awful things start to happen to him. We're told that God is speaking with the adversary. Some people have interpreted that to be the devil. But could this also be something that's happening within Job, that there's the good and the bad, the pleasant and the unpleasant that's happening within our own minds? So Job is having all of these awful things happen to him. And of course, these experiences invoke fear, which brings more negative thinking. But what we discover as we dig deeper into the symbolism of the book of Job is that there's a difference between what we believe and what we practice. And often what we practice tells us the truth about what we really believe. So often within unity, there will be that, we'll have people who encounter the unity for philosophy for the first time, and they're kind of like, well, man, that sounds like poppycock. And so as we start to practice unity principles, often there's that adversary within us that still wants to cling to our old assumptions and our old worldview. So, I'll have, as a minister, I'll have someone say, well, I've been coming to unity for 30 years, but I'm not seeing the practice of the unity principles. So there has to be this realization within each of us of oneness, letting go of any delusion that we're separate from God and separate from divine substance. Job was regularly affirming negativity, and that's what he was creating in his life. Later in the book of Job, 22nd chapter, 28th verse, God instructs Job, "Thou shalt declare a thing, and it will be established unto you, and the light will shine on all of your ways." I like that. "Thou shalt declare a thing, and it shall be established unto you, and light will shine on all your ways." So, what are you going to declare? Remember the title of the lesson today, Loose Lips Sink Ships. It can be so easy, though, to get caught up in just, you think you're just innocently, I remember this when one Unity minister was telling me he was in downtown of whatever city it was that he was in, and he got onto an elevator and was riding up, and there's one other person in the elevator, and of course there's this, there's that sense like you need to say something. So the Unity minister says, "Boy, the weather sure is awful, isn't it?" And the other gentleman in the elevator kind of looked at him and arrived at his floor, and as he stepped off the elevator, he goes, "Well, you know what they say, it's all about your attitude." So sometimes the universe can speak through anyone. But this concept of the power of the spoken word is one of those things that sets unity apart from so many other spiritual belief systems, especially in the Christian denominations. And yet, time and time again, we see in the Bible these references to the power of the spoken word. You shall decree a thing, and it shall be established unto you. So despite all of these Bible verses, they're getting off on other aspects of what Paul taught or Jesus taught. So here we are. We're coping with a contagion. Yes, there is this novel coronavirus that we're trying very hard through this sequestering of ourselves to flatten the curve, as they said, just to kind of be careful that we don't overwhelm the hospitals and the emergency rooms with these cases. And yet, but the bizarre thing is, like we're discovering, some people have no symptoms at all, like they call it asymptomatic, and yet, they're breathing out the virus to other people. Other people, get so ill, and their lungs just start to fail on them, and that they just drown, so to speak. There is another contagion going around, though, and that is the contagion of fear. The contagion of the thoughts, the words that we're putting out there. So what are our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, our emotions? And are the words we speak really what we want to create? So this is where you and I come in. As good Unity Truth students, we first don't need to make things right, but we need to see them rightly. Like I said before, don't need to correct other people, but sometimes you might want to excuse yourself from a conversation, or just within yourself say, "No, I deny, dissolve, and release that negativity." And then affirm within yourself what it is that you do want to create. We can place our faith in God. We can monitor our thoughts. We can speak the word. There's a phrase that I learned along the way which is really kind of good to work with on a daily basis. So let something good be said. Let something good be said. LSGBS. So if we're encountering pessimism, negativity, fear, can we change the subject? Maybe get people talking more positively. Earlier I said that in the book of Joel, it says, "Let the weak declare I am strong." So yes, we can change how we are, what we assume. We can download the divine ideas, opening our mind to the divine mind and allowing those ideas to come forth. And with our intuition, we recognize what is ours to do. And then we follow through on that divine idea. And that's an important thing, following through. There are some people that can be boastful. But there are some people that can use the words creatively. A lot of you remember the championship boxer Muhammad Ali. I read an article once where as he's starting out as a boxer, they were doing a cross promotion with a professional wrestling match, and Muhammad Ali was saying, "Well, I just was kind of talking, like you see so many athletes doing news conferences." And then they introduce Gorgeous George, and he grabs the microphone and he starts shouting, about how he's just going to obliterate his opponent and all that, and just talking about what a fantastic fight is coming up and all that, and how he is the greatest professional wrestler of all time. And Ali's realized, wow, I want to watch that fight. And he started to kind of take it to heart and thought, wow, maybe what I need to do is to see myself as the greatest boxer of all time. And of course, that seemed to be his catchphrase, right? So often he said, "I am the greatest." Well, we can get some insight into what he was talking about when he was talking to a writer at one point about this. And he says, "Your state of mind should always be I am potentially the greatest writer in the world, he's telling this writer. So what is it that you do? What role do you play in your life? Can you take that by saying, I am the greatest in the world? I am the greatest minister in the world. And can I see that potential, at least building towards that potential? Are you the greatest mother in the world, the greatest father in the world, the greatest salesman in the world, the greatest businessman in the world? What is it that you want to create in the world? And start to work those thoughts and feelings and project yourself into that energy, and then you'll start to see it creating in your life. As Leo Burnett, the famous advertising executive, said, reach for the stars. You may not reach a star, but at least you won't come up with a handful of mud either. So, can we take our attitude into our life and affirm what it is we want to affirm? Keep our ego in check, but follow through. Okay, I'm going to have Duncan put up this week's takeaways, and I've posted them on that Facebook page where you're watching right now. So number one, take responsibility for everything I have experienced. These are obviously for you to work with. My subconscious mind doesn't know how to take a joke. The world doesn't owe me a living, but the universe does. I choose not to participate in the contagion of a poor attitude. I'm willing to take charge of my mind, my thoughts, my feelings. I set up my observer self to monitor my thoughts, feelings, words, and attitudes. Remember the phrase, let something good be said. The spoken word is powerful. Number 9 is declare what I want to release, and then 10, declare what I want to attract. As I mentioned, there's that phrase, the world doesn't owe me a living, but the universe does. We're part of the spiritual substance, the God presence that is in this universe. So affirm, I can make it. I know I can. I am God's living expression. God cannot fail. I am in the flow.
Next week, we invite Reverend Cheryl Myers, who's the senior minister at Unity of Gaithersburg, back where she provides the lesson, A Whale of a Tale. And I do want to put a shout out to Unity of Gaithersburg. When Reverend Cheryl was talking about that lesson just a couple of weeks ago, she invited her congregants to send a picture of themselves to the church, and what Reverend Cheryl did and the staff was that they printed out those pictures and they put them in the seats in the sanctuary, so that when Reverend Cheryl and the musicians are actually doing the Sunday service, they can look out and actually see pictures of congregants sitting in the seats. Well, I also sent a picture I did a selfie, if you will, from back here to where we're shooting against the camera and the teleprompter and the monitor that I have in front here. And they went ahead and also included that image representing you, representing the viewers of Unity Serving Military Overseas. And I wanted to let them know that we as a spiritual community enjoy the lessons and the meditations that the Reverend Cheryl provides, and we're also represented within their sanctuary as well. So just to let you know that it is, even though we're not necessarily there or watching their services all the time, that we are part of their spiritual community. You are part of their spiritual community. And the reason we use and have partnered with ministries like Unity of Gaithersburg, Unity of Fairfax, Unity of Tampa, Unity of the Renaissance at Chesapeake, is so that when you as U.S. service members or the families rotate from overseas to CONUS, if you happen to be stationed in D.C. or in Norfolk or at MacDill in Tampa, that you're familiar with those ministries and the ministers and the type of lessons that they do provide. And that's the whole reason that we partner with those ministries. And we're always encouraged to talk with other ministers and other folks as well, and other partnering with other ministries. I want to thank you again for worshiping today. We're here with Unity Serving Military Overseas. Would love to hear your thoughts about today's service. And we want to take this opportunity to close with the Prayer for Protection, written by James Dillett Freeman and carried throughout the world by soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines the world over since World War II. And I invite you to recite it with me. The light of God surrounds me. I am light. The love of God enfolds me. I am love. The power of God protects me. I am power. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever, and I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is. As I know, all is divine. We close today's service with a video courtesy of Unity Village Chapel. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Have a very blessed week.